everybody. Thank you for joining us today for the Global Childhoods Research Hub Research Seminar. I would like to begin, as we always do, by just paying respect to the Wurundjeri, Wurrung and Bunurong Bunurong peoples, who are traditional owners and custodians of the unceded land on which the University of Melbourne stands, and extend that respect to the Yorta Yorta, Dja Dja Wurrung, traditional owners of the lands occupied by other University of Melbourne campuses, acknowledging the important place of Indigenous knowledges in the academy, in our communities and beyond. And we also now can proudly acknowledge the historic passing of the first treaty in Victoria, which is the result of the incredible work of the First Peoples Assembly and their communities in Victoria, as well as the ongoing care and activism of Indigenous people and communities around Australia who have sustained and been sustained by country here for millennia. So we're always walking with and living on Indigenous lands in Australia. As we're talking today, may we bring this acknowledgement into relation with the worlding that we're doing with young children, wherever we are in the world, by learning with and from Indigenous knowledges and ways of knowing. We learn how to care for country in ways that are mutually sustaining for generations to come. So with that in mind, we're going to begin The Leaf People, which is an exercise in collective imagination with Krechevsky and Ben Mardell. So Krechevsky is a researcher at Project Zero at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. Many of you already know Mara. Her current research projects include Good Starts, a qualitative research project exploring how young children conceptualise I, we and they across cultures, and Educating for American Democracy, a cross-ideological initiative to strengthen K-12 civics and history in education in the US. Ben Mardell is the Atelierista and Pedagogista at Newtown School in Cambridge, Massachusetts. He's also a research affiliate of Lifelong Kindergarten at the MIT Media Lab, and he's the editor of The Remake, or theremake.org, an online newsletter about playful learning in an era of rapid climate change. So perfect people for us to be listening to and learning from today. So our format is going to be a presentation for about 30 minutes, and then we'll break into breakout rooms with about 4 people in each room. We'll have some questions to think about while we're there, and then we'll come back together for shared discussion. For those who are watching the recording later, please note that we won't be recording the breakout rooms, but during the entire thing, I'll be facilitating the chat, and Mara and Ben are going to encourage the use of the chat throughout. So if everyone can just mute their mics, can leave your camera on, that would be fantastic. It's lovely for Ben and Mara to be able to see everybody. But yeah, without much further ado, I invite Ben to begin sharing.
Okay, well, hello to everyone in Australia and around the world, even from occupied Portland. I am excited to be here because my overarching research question as an early childhood teacher research is what should I be doing more of, or differently, or the same in this era of rapid climate change? And I'm excited about the opportunity to talk to people who I know think about this similar question, particularly from a post-human perspective. And Mara, did you want to say something before I jump in to the presentation?
I don't think so. I'm just also very interested to hear your perspectives in addition to our own.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and tell you about the Leaf People and some questions that they bring up. So I'm optimizing for sound. That's good. Okay. Okay, can you, everyone just school on it? I hope you can. I'm not hearing any affirmatives. So Mara, if I'm blathering away,
yes,
and
no, we can see it.
Text me. But the context, Newtown School, where I've worked for the last 3 years, to give you a sense of where the story takes place. So Newtown is located in the heart of Cambridge, Massachusetts, a small city outside in the part of the Boston metropolitan area. And our mission is to instill children the confidence to be curious, lifelong learners who can contribute meaningfully in creating a kinder, more sustainable, more equitable world. We have 4 age-based classrooms, from oldest to youngest, the green dragonflies, who are 5-ish, blue otters, 4-ish, purple fish, and then orange sea stars. There are 55 children in all, and I have 15 wonderful colleagues who help us care and educate for these children in teaching teams. We're a parent co-op and Reggio Emilia inspired school. And one outgrowth of that connection to Reggio is that there's an atelier, a studio, where children come for playful learning experiences, and an atelierista, and that's me in some of my work. I have two main intentions, main learning goals for the children when they come to the studio. One is to foster solidarity between them and the rest of nature in Cambridge and beyond. And the second is to facilitate connections across the Newtown school learning community. And I aim to do that, meet these intentions by providing the children with playful learning experiences, which I see as the children getting to do what they want to do while leaning into these intentions of mine, meeting these intentions. So I hope that orients you a little bit to my context. Now let me tell you the story of the Leaf People. So the Leaf People originated in my first year at Newtown. 3-year-old Benjamin, who at the time had little English, but a lot of Portuguese, was very upset. And his teacher, Danielle, and I, who don't speak Portuguese, were having a hard time consoling him. I suggested that we bring him outside. Maybe that would help, but it didn't. But then on a whim, I picked 3 leaves from a tree. I put one in front of my face, gave the other to Danielle and Benjamin, and that worked some magic. He stopped crying. He even started to smile. And soon other kids and children were getting into the act, and the Leaf People were born. And we painted leaves, we talked about Leaf People, but by the winter, when the leaves had fallen off the trees, our interest turned to other places. I brought back the Leaf People last year, my second year at Newtown, to draw attention to trees, which I wanted the kids to think about. And I invited all the children in all the classrooms to decorate leaves and become Leaf People, and assumed again that the project would wane in the winter. But then about a year ago, the November 2024 US elections happened. And for someone who believes that political discourse should be civil, truthful, and inclusive, that was not a happy day. I thought about the Leaf People, and I decided that they were kind, inclusive, anybody who wanted to be could be a Leaf person, and that they had adventures. But beyond that, the Leaf People were a blank canvas, an opportunity for children to create together. So I decided to continue with the Leaf People to see if the topic would engage the children and my colleagues. And here I was influenced by Ursula Le Guin's Always Coming Home, which I had read the previous summer. And if you're not familiar with the book, it tells of the fictional Kesh people who live in a future in what seems to be the San Francisco Bay Area and have a sustainable relationship with the rest of the natural world. In an impressive display of world building, Le Guin accounts for the Kesh people's food, games, festivals, education, economics. She has Kesh poems and stories, and there's even a companion album of Kesh music. I imagine the Leaf People would provide an opportunity for the Newtown community to world build, to imagine and co-create a society that was perhaps kinder than the one that was elected in 2024. And the kids did. The children made lots of discoveries about the Leaf People, which I kept track on a poster in the studio, a depository of our findings. Through their play, drawing, storytelling, the children have decided that the Leaf People eat cookies, ice cream, and donuts. They live in the forest and they use solar panels to get their electricity. They have dance parties and other activities. And they're friends with leaf aliens, bamboo monsters, and panda bears. Why pandas? Well, to do some research about the Leaf People, I took the kids to what I call the secret forest, a space behind our school that you can see has some bamboo. The children decided if there was bamboo, there must be panda bears. That led the green dragonflies, the oldest kids, to create a book called The Leaf People Meet the Pandas. And I'm going to read you this book, and except for the chapter titles, which I created, all the words are the children. About the leaf people. The leaf people are not real. They are imaginary. They put leaves on their faces and have magic, and the magic wind can blow them up into the air so they can have adventures. Leaf people like giving and getting gifts. Sometimes they go fishing. Chapter 1, which is the first encounter. The leaf people, once upon a time, there were 3 leaf people. And one day they said, is it true that pandas can get used to leaf people? Leaf person Maverick said, the race car rainbow can come up and take the pandas away. And then the pandas scared the leaf people, and the pandas slide down the rainbow. Then they went back and decided to be nice, but the leaf people were afraid. But the pandas did not know and picked them up, and the leaf people were afraid that they would cover them in sand, but they did not cover them. They had to drink some orange juice because the leaf people were sick. But the pandas put the leaf people in a cage. Then the pandas said, do you want to try some bamboo to the leaf people? The leaf people said, no, thanks. And the leaf people asked, what's your name? And the pandas said, our name are Keepy People and Deeple. Chapter 2, but then. Sometimes pandas eat donuts. Sometimes they eat strawberries and ice cream. When it's cold, they drink hot chocolate. They share with the leaf people because they are nice. Because they eat and share food, they become friends. And the leaf people weren't scared. There was a dance party and they played drums. Chapter 3, then. The
Ben,
Did
you
I
might
get
want to
that?
go back, one slide.
Oh, is this
Great.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
The pandas did not eat the leaf people. The pandas and the leaf people became best friends and played baseball, soccer, and basketball. And they had a big party, and the pandas married the leaf people. So the leaf people went to their house and had dinner together. And for dessert, they had a big cake, panda bamboo cake. They built a fence around their house so no one could get in. Now chapter 4, the bamboo monster. And the leaf people made a house of bamboo. They built a house so was so cool they could just open and push it out through the door. There was a bamboo monster. The bamboo monster was their friend. It protected them and the pandas. It was the pandas who had the idea of making it out of bamboo, and the leaf people who had the idea of making it magical. The bamboo monster ate the fireworks from the dance party. Then his babies went to the house and got fireworks. He was too big to go to the house. So I'm going to pause the story for a minute to make an observation. I think it's great that the kids got to world build, to imagine together. But that isn't necessarily true that the worlds that they will build and imagine will be kind, caring, and inclusive. For example, in Le Guin's Always Coming Home, she also imagines a culture very different from the Kesh, the Condor people. Condor society is very hierarchical, militaristic, male-dominated, and their warriors wage campaigns against their neighbors, where they plunder and take slaves. And the same thing happened with the children. In another book that the Dragonflies created, The Leaf People's Next Adventure, the entire Newtown school was destroyed by sharks, though it was eventually rebuilt. And in their book, The Leaf People versus the Sharks, the leaf people and the sharks take turn killing each other and then coming back to life. I've been thinking a lot about this recently, that engaging children in activities that foster creativity and collaboration, artistic activities, activities where they can use their imagination, doesn't necessarily lead to care. Why do I say this? Well, think of the various individuals and groups in my country and elsewhere in the world that are very adept at imagining new possibilities and policies, and that are careless and evenly outright cruel. The musician Brian Eno has observed that art can make the mind work better, but that isn't the same as the mind working for good ends. So I have a question that I've been thinking a lot about lately. In creative, artistic, world-building activities, how can we cultivate care? So let's pick up the story again. The Leaf People Met the Pandas was one of 5 books that the Dragonflies created. And the Purple Fish, the 3-year-olds loved these books. When they came to the studio, they would clamor for them to be read. And they had questions about the stories, about the Leaf People's food preferences, about the pandas' names, why were they named Keepy and Deeple, and more, which presented me with an opportunity. The Dragonflies have a class podcast called Everything Questions, mostly facilitated by their classroom teachers. Each episode, they answer a question about a theme: dinosaurs, how to write books, spiders, and more. And I thought, what about a Leaf People episode, where of course they would answer some questions the Purple Fish had, but I could also direct their attention towards issues of care. So we did a podcast, and I didn't ask why the pandas and the Leaf People needed a fence for their house, or why the bamboo monster ate fireworks, though I'm sure this would have gotten some interesting answers. But rather, I focused on the part of the story involving the 2 groups meeting, the Leaf People and the pandas, who were initially suspicious of each other and then became good friends. That seemed a line of inquiry that could open up issues of care that 4- and 5-year-olds have opinions about, particularly about friendship. And let me play with you some things that the kids said when I asked them questions about this. Down to Josh. Go ahead, Josh.
Well, you just have to see who likes you and you like who, and you like who, and then if you get along together well, you can be like that, and then you'll just have a friend.
Okay, so did you hear what Josh said? He said if you like somebody and they like you, you can get along and be friends. How do you know when you don't know somebody yet? How do you become, what's ways to get to know somebody and become friends with them?
Play with them.
Okay, play with them. Caleb and Annika? Yeah, go ahead, Caleb.
So if you become friends, it takes a long time. So you have to be like, and if you really know each other, you want to be. If you're married and if you got divorced, and then you got married again, and then you got divorced, and then you got married again, then you got divorced, but then you got married for a whole life.
Huh.
So like you became friends, but then you haven't, but then you became really friends, then you haven't, but then you became friends.
So it sounds like sometimes you can be friends, but you can have an argument or a fight with somebody, and then you can still be friends afterwards. Is that right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you, Annika? When you have a fight with one of your friends, how do you make that better? How do you make up and still be friends?
Like, you can try to say,
we'll say you're sorry.
this is it. Don't do any more of this argument, and then we can keep playing whenever you do it.
Okay, great. Caleb, great. Those were really... So I asked other groups of children these questions, and when I did, I would share what previous groups had mentioned about making friends, and basically the kids agreed with Josh about that playing is a really good way to make friends. And here's where I'm looking for. Another issue that I felt could involve care came up with Annika, commented that she didn't like that the Leaf People had died in some of the books. Caleb was fine with this. He explained that it was okay because they came back to life, but this did not convince Annika. I explained this debate to Michael, Kai, and Linnea the next day, and here's what they said. So in this book, the sharks versus the Leaf People, there's times where the sharks die, and there's times when the Leaf People die, but then they come back to life. And when Annika was thinking about this story, she said that she didn't like it that the Leaf People kept on dying. Caleb said it was okay because they would come back to life, but I'm wondering, how do you feel? Is it fine?
The same as the same as Caleb. I have something to add.
Let Linnea.
In real life, people do not come back to life once they die.
So do you think it's okay to have it in the story, or is it, or not?
I think it's okay, like Caleb. No.
You don't think? Why don't you think it's okay, Linnea? I'm wondering. You want it to be more like real life? Yeah. And Michael, you had something to add.
I think it shouldn't be a versus there because I think we should actually change this book into a different one.
And how would you change it, Michael?
We'll change it to a versus who know versus. So I put it that into the dump. Wait, we could make a book, but I have one piece for the book.
What would you say?
I'm still talking, Kai.
Oh, okay. Look, why don't you finish your thought, Michael? Go ahead.
And we should actually make a book that's about them being friends.
Oh, the sharks and the leaf people being friends? Cool. That's an idea. Kai, what are you thinking? So, that was actually a very popular idea that Michael had, and kids continued to pick up on it. And I don't know, we didn't get to write the book, but there was meant to be a dance party between the sharks and the leaf people, which I think would have been pretty interesting. There were more conversations, more opinions, but I'm going to end the story here. So there'll be time to think about it and talk about it. So Mara, over to you.
Great. Well, thank you, Ben. We're going to start off this discussion by using a thinking routine called See, Think, Wonder. Just give me a thumbs up if you've ever used this routine before or participated in it. Okay, I think almost everybody, or even everybody. Yeah, so what we're going to do is first, I'm just going to ask you to say what you saw or what you heard that Ben said, and just description. So no interpretation, no judgment if possible. And it could be something, nothing's too obvious. So it could be like, I heard Ben say that children held up leaves to their faces, something like that. And we're going to stay in the whole group for that. And actually, Amy, I don't think we need to do the chat. I think people can just unmute and share what you saw or heard Ben say. So let's just take a couple of minutes to do that.
Great.
And feel free to just unmute and talk. And if it gets chaotic, I'll figure something else out.
No one wants to go first, so I will. I heard Ben tell us about the meaning making that the children, the leaf people, encountered, and his especially at the end there, his conversations with them to probe into the depths of their meaning making and their communication with him.
Mm-hmm.
There was so much more, but that's just sort of a...
No, that's great. And when you say meaning making, what are you referring to in particular?
Well, how they're making sense of things that are happening to them, their experiences, and how they're articulating that out loud.
Okay.
And the first did it with the book, their ideas about, the pandas and the bamboo, and then more in depth with sort of feelings later.
Yep.
So there's like a range of topics there that go from sort of simple observation to sort of quite deep-seated beliefs, and articulating that is a wonderful opportunity for them to make sense of things that are happening to them and their experiences. So that's what I mean by meaning making.
Okay, thank you. Other descriptions, observations, what did you see or hear in Ben's presentation?
I heard Ben ask the children, how do you get to know and become friends with someone? And after an argument, how do you make up and still be friends?
Great, thank you.
I heard pedagogies of creative. Oh, sorry, I can't speak. Creativity as a critical pedagogy.
Did you hear Ben say that, or that is
no,
that?
I heard that through. I inferred that maybe. I read that into what
Okay.
I heard. I heard
Yeah.
Ben to unpack that. I guess I heard Ben speak in a democratic way with children through the creative process, that they then unpicked sticky points to think through that in a creative pedagogical way.
Okay,
Did
thank
that-
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
For this, for this step of the routine, if possible, Really,
much.
all you need to do is say, I heard this or I saw this, and you don't need to interpret it. You don't need to judge it. So anyone else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I heard Ben say that he realized through the story that perhaps he still didn't explore or didn't understand care, or because he talked about care as one of the kind of main things that he was really wanting, and that he realized that perhaps that still, I'm not sure if it hadn't been explored, if it was something, and so that's where he went for that, made him think about are
Mhm.
the children still, do they understand what we mean by care? I think that's what it was.
Yes. Did he say
Yeah.
why he thought the children weren't interested in care? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Yeah. Okay. I don't remember that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I heard him ask, how can we cultivate care?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was the one I was about to say, Angela. Exactly.
Well, I knew you were. That's why I had to go first.
I also heard him make space for the children to probe questions around dying and coming back in real worlds versus imaginary worlds. So creating kind of the space for children to explore their thinking around those things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe one more.
Oh, we've got some in the chat if that helps. So
Oh, yeah.
Matt's written, I heard Ben ask, sorry, Lisa has got, I saw pictures of the children which they drew of their stories of sharks and leaf people. I heard children talk about marry and divorce, and Ben asked if they thought you could fight and still be friends. And then Matt wrote, I heard Ben draw from his reading of Ursula Le Guin. And Julian, I heard children's tone. It feels very relaxed with openness and a softness as well.
Okay, I guess that might be getting a little bit into interpretation, but that's fine. Great. So this is good because I think you are, and I see Akio is asking some questions in the chat, but I think maybe at this point we'll break up into 2 breakout rooms. And so the first part of the thinking routine is really just to ground us all in what we each see, because what Jean sees is not necessarily going to be the same as what Matt sees. Now, what we want you to do is thinking about those observations and descriptions. What does it make you think? And what does it make you wonder? And if possible, now we are asking for interpretation. So if possible, also saying what makes you say that? Why do you think this? Or why do you wonder that? And if you can, in your breakout rooms, if someone can just volunteer to share one highlight from your discussion when you come back, that would be great. And we'll give you about, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes for this.
Yeah, and I've also put the questions that Mara just talked about into the chat. So if you can just copy those and take them with you, because you may not be able to still see them, I'm not sure, when you go into the breakout rooms. Let me just check. So you just want 2 breakout rooms, Mara?
I think so.
Yeah, I think that'll give us a number of people. And I'm going to include the hosts, and I'm going to pause the recording as well.
Yep.
You should see an invite very soon.
Okay, and you'll send a warning like a
Yeah.
minute, say at 4 minutes, send a warning.
Yeah. All right. So we've come back from the breakout rooms. And Jason, would you like to begin by sharing from your room?
Yeah, I think we sort of at the end came together as saying like it was we thought a lot about everything, but coming out with a responsive or working with young people as responsive, capable thinkers and creators, citizens, and using provocative questioning that is relational or something. Maybe Yvette, you can help me out with what we spoke about.
Oh, that sounds good. I think we were discussing the way that Ben would engage the young people's voice as responsive pedagogy.
And the threads of possibility in that. And I think it was you, Yvette, that brought up, it made you think about what I should be doing more of, and being particularly, particular examples of responsive, and how that let the sort of conversation flow. And then for me, I keep going harping on about meaning making, that's a process as well.
Mm.
Okay, Amy.
Do you want me to share from our room? So Jean began talking about the challenge of thinking about imagination with children, and drew on her readings of Maxine Green around the ways that sometimes imagination can be a source of not good, and it's about structuring conversations to bring it back to the common good. Katie talked about, that idea that neurodivergent ways of thinking don't always have ease with the ideas around wonder and imagine, and that they're not necessarily ways of knowing or ways of thinking that just come naturally to everybody. They're not universal. And so when we ask questions with children, they don't always have to be about what future can you imagine. They can often just be what children have experienced, particularly in her work around climate change stories, that they're actually not rooted in imagination and wondering necessarily. They're often rooted in children's experiences and ways of thinking. But they are, the commonality there is like, how do we think about care? And how do we wonder, what if? Angela talked about cultivating care and ideas around how we ask questions, and both Julian and I reflected on the ways that Ben created spaces and used silences and pauses in his question asking to kind of bring conversations and children's thinking into relation with one another. So yeah, that idea of reinforcing, not rushing, but waiting for responses, and being that cultivating care through the ways that we speak and the ways that we structure our thinking with children. If
Great.
anyone in my room wants to say that's not what you meant, yes,
Looks like you're getting thumbs up. Ben, usually I think when we do See, Think, Wonder, the creator or the author or whatever is not there. So I don't know if you are here and you've been silent listening to everybody. So I don't know if there's anything that you want to share based on what you heard from others before I share some reflections.
Well, it's a slight regret, and this was near the end of the year, but I do wish that there would have been time, or I would have had the presence of mind to help Michael actualize his suggestion to create a new book about not versus, but the sharks and the leaf people. I think that listening to this again, now several months later, preparing for this chat, I was like, oh, I mean, I know Nicola was like, these aren't lost opportunities until they are lost opportunities. So anyways, but, and I guess, yeah, that maybe I'll stop there, because I think that we should hear what you have to say, Mara.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for both in the small room and in the whole room for sharing your different perspectives. And, Carlina Rinaldi talks about learning not just as expression, but as communication. And so I'm sure Ben and I learned a lot preparing to communicate this with you. And now we're learning a lot from you. So thank you for that. Okay, so some of you know that Ben and I were involved in a multi-year collaboration with educators from the municipal preschools in Reggio Emilia, Italy. And one of the questions that we posed in that collaboration was, what makes a group a learning group? So we're in groups all the time, especially in schools, but would you call all of those groups learning groups? And what makes a group a learning group? And I'm going to share some reflections about Ben's story using what we discovered about key features of learning groups as a lens. So now I'm going to share my screen. And see. Well, okay. Everyone can see that? Great. So this is a cross-cultural definition of a learning group, meaning Italian and American, and it took us 2 years to come up with this. So I'll say a little bit about it, but then I want to identify what we considered key features of when a group becomes a learning group with reference to Ben's story. But we defined a learning group as a collection of persons who are emotionally, intellectually, and then our Italian friends added aesthetically, and that's kind of a intriguing idea. What does it mean for a group to learn in an aesthetic way? But engaged in solving problems and creating products, which actually is part of Howard Gardner's definition of what it means to be intelligent, the ability to solve problems and create products that are valued in at least one culture. But again, this is cross-cultural, so our Italian colleagues added "and making meaning," in which each person learns on his or her own and through the ways of learning of others. So I'm not going to say a lot more about the definition now, except to say that when we are talking about learning groups, we are always also talking about the individual. And I think sometimes, at least in the United States, there's a fear, oh, if you're focusing on the group, somehow the individual identity will get lost. But in Reggio Emilia, they don't see the group as replacing individual learning. Rather, it enhances and builds on that learning. But just to give you another perspective, I was actually pregnant with my daughter Daria when I first traveled to Reggio Emilia. And when Daria was 2, she drew her first drawing with colored markers. And so I said, Daria, tell me about your drawing. And she said, this is a picture of my colleagues. Yeah, so, just to say, 100 languages, be prepared to be surprised. Okay, so here are some of the features of learning groups that we identified. We wouldn't say these are the only features, but we would say without them, something might be lost. So I'm going to just say what they are and then say a little bit about each with reference to Ben's story. So the members of a learning group include adults as well as children. That's number 1. 2 is the role of documenting children's learning. Yes, to make learning visible, but just as important, it shapes the learning that takes place. 3rd, and you already saw hints of this in the definition, that learning groups are engaged in the emotional and aesthetic, as well as intellectual dimensions of learning. And then finally, the focus of learning in learning groups is about what we learn as individuals, and it extends beyond the learning of individuals to create a collective body of knowledge. So I'm going to actually stop sharing now and just share some thoughts about Ben's story. So I think Ben was a member of his learning group in several ways. Number 1, he started by posing a question that was connected to the mission of the school, to help children be curious, lifelong learners who contribute to a kinder, more sustainable and equitable world. And then Ben's particular question was about how can he foster solidarity between children and nature and increase children's attention to and caring for the natural world. And he also, and we used to call Ben, we still do, a serial collaborator. But he also wanted to foster the learning of the other adults in Newtown, because his second goal was making those connections among the members of the wider community. And then the November election also informed Ben's learning goal because, did you say this, Ben? Or is this just something I read before? Oh, you did? Okay. He believes that political discourse, wait, did you?
Yes, yes, yeah, but I think well, you know how I think too, so.
Yeah. Anyways, the November election had a big impact on us all, but it really, for Ben, he thinks that political discourse should be civil, truthful, inclusive, and that's something that unfortunately is in short supply. So he created the conditions to foster these kinds of dispositions by bringing back the idea of the leaf people. He started with the child who was upset And then he brought it back as an opportunity, not just for children, but the whole Newtown community to imagine and co-create a world that might exist as a society in their city. And here I just want to pause to say that Ben's reference to community building world building reminds me of a definition of citizenship that was put forth by the philosopher Danielle Allen, and she's drawing on another philosopher, Hannah Arendt's definition of citizenship. So Danielle defines citizenship as the activity of co-creating a way of life, of world building. And because co-creating a way of life extends beyond legal categories, she prefers to use the term civic agency. And she would say there are 3 parts to civic agency, 3 core tasks. One is disinterested deliberation about a public problem, so citizens engaging in civil discourse. 2, something that she calls prophetic frame shifting, or envisioning ways to shift what a society's values are. So somebody who embodies this in the United States, for example, would be Martin Luther King. And then the third task for civic agents is fair fighting, or people who seek to change the hearts and minds of others by fighting fairly for particular outcomes. And education is crucial for developing the content in any of these tasks. And I see Ben and the children as engaging in world building. Ben is seeking ways to influence a society's values, and children are engaged in imagining a world that the Leaf people can inhabit, and with Ben's gentle guidance, exploring the role of care in that world. So the second feature was about documenting children's learning processes, both making learning visible and shaping the learning that takes place. Ben tracks the discoveries of the Leaf people on a poster. So that serves as a memory for the group. And it also makes Ben's listening visible because he's recording, as some of you have pointed out, the children's voices and ideas on the poster. He's also using the walls to advance learning. That is, that's something Pat Tarr in Canada talks about documentation as using the walls to advance learning. That is, not just posting images of what the children did, but making their thinking and ideas visible and hence able to be revisited. So all of this shapes and informs the learning that happens afterwards. And then we also heard Ben say he makes it a practice, a common practice to share what one group of children said with another group and ask them, what does that make them think? Third feature, learning groups are engaged in the emotional and aesthetic as well as intellectual dimensions. And Ben started by saying he's directly engaging the emotions by providing or helping children to think about this through playful learning experiences. And he said that's when what the kids get to do align with his own intentions. And Ben and I worked on another project called Pedagogy of Play, and Ben defined the sweet spot of playful learning as when what the kids want to be doing is the exact same thing as what the teachers want them to be doing. And then finally, the focus of learning in learning groups extends beyond the learning of individuals to create collective knowledge. So from the very beginning, Ben is fostering solidarity between children and nature and caring for the natural world. That's a learning goal that extends far beyond the individual children. He also suggests that they make books about Leaf people to share with others. And when the 3-year-old group loves them so much and they want them to be read over and over again, that leads Ben to suggest, hey, we could do a Dragonfly podcast about this. So now the collective knowledge is not just limited to the kids or to Ben or the teachers, but families, and it's on Spotify. If you wanted to listen to the podcast now, you could. So that's all I wanted to share about my reflections on a learning group, but I hope that Ben and I have provoked your thinking a little bit about preparing children for an uncertain future and engaging both children and adults in the exercise of world building and what makes experiences like that so powerful. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mara. That was great. Summation and reflection.
Yes, thanks, Sarah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Can I just add something there too? Ben and Mara, I'm the editor of Global Studies of Childhood. So we're in the global childhood context here. And in terms of that, the comment that Mara made about the sort of the political stance of citizenship, Dana France Bentley, who's in BB&N just near you.
Yes, we know her.
Yeah, she's just written a colloquium about children as activists in the latest edition of that, and it will be out like just be in next month, and it would be wonderful if you like it, if you could write something like it's called a colloquium. It's just sort of like a conversation piece, so it's not like a full-blown article, but it's what her children did in terms of being activists, and they were kindergarten children at BBN. So you might be
Great.
interested in when it comes out. I'll let you know.
Yes,
Please do. Thank you.
Yeah. We were going to send you off with a song because there's our music teacher wrote a song about the leaf people. So and it well, if you have a second, let's see if we can hear it.
All you need to believe, people, is believe, people. It's not that hard. Just go and find a leaf, people, neath the tree, people, in your own backyard. Neath the steeple in Cambridge, imagination abounds. Kids are making whole worlds with vegetation found on the ground. Leaf people can fly. Leaf people are kind. Leaf people can do anything that we choose to make up in our minds. All you need to believe, people, is believe, people. It's not that hard. Just go and find a leaf, people, neath the tree, people, in your own backyard. Leaf people like rainbows and donuts and cookies and hugs. Leaf people are brave and never get eaten by bugs. Leaf people use solar panels and eat panda bamboo cake. Leaf people are careful not to get caught in a wake. All you need to believe, people, is believe, people. It's not that hard. Just go and find a leaf, people, neath the tree, people, in your own backyard. Put a leaf on your face. It's not as hard as you think. Now just hold it in place and wait for the magic wind.
Amazing.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Mara. That was wonderful.
Okay, so yeah, Alistair Mook, our music teacher.
I'm going to stop the recording there.